Hello everybody, Marty McConnell, Off-Grid Gecko here, thinking, reflecting on off-grid life and other things. So, off-grid, I did a blog post about it. A lot of people have all these skewed notions of what it means to live off the grid, but essentially off-grid is just that you're disconnected from the power grid and sometimes from the water grid too, but originally the meaning of the term was spawned out of off-grid, meaning that you're not connected to a power grid. That's all it means. So you can take that as you will. That might mean for some people living without electricity entirely, though it's kind of hard to write blog posts and books and do all the wonderful computer things without any power source or source of electricity. And making your own battery cells and doing it kind of Egyptian style, and then figuring out a way to convert that into power to feed your computer. That would be a trick. I'm not saying I couldn't do it, but I would rather not. At least not as a dependable source. So this place has never been connected to the grid since I started out in the cabin next door, and it was all still woods around here. Yeah, it's never been connected to the grid. So I got the solar panels one day and someone was like, oh, you're off grid now. I'm like, no, I've been off grid. I just, I finally got solar panels, so I don't have to run the generator to charge the batteries anymore. And before that, I had to run the generator to actually use my laptop or do anything. I had a smaller generator, so if I needed electricity mainly for the laptop or for tools, then I would fire that puppy up and it would run as long as I needed it to. And then I close my laptop, turn off the generator, go to sleep. Or finish the job that I'm doing, turn the generator off, that kind of thing. But the funny thing about life off-grid is, depending on how you do it. Now, if you're true like bushcraft survival, completely in the woods and trapping and catching your own food and doing all that stuff and cutting yourself off from society, living the dream, so to speak, then yeah, this might not apply to you. A lot of people that I know who live off-grid have odd jobs, so they basically work seasonally as they need extra money for something, and then they skirt out and don't work anymore. The guy down the street builds bee boxes, and he gets paid by the bee box, so he can pretty much go to work whenever he feels like it and make some money that day or not. So commission jobs are good. I was doing freelance writing for a while, so I literally made my own schedule. I set aside 5 or 6 hours a day to sit down and write or search for clients or source things or whatever. But the way that I'm living now, it's kind of not that way anymore. It's I've got a regular day job that I go to almost every day. It's not completely regular day job. I mean, I guess nothing's really regular when you're working in concrete, but at least not status quo regular. But there are days when I get home, and my day is like any other day. I get home, hang up my coat, so to speak, take a shower, eat, feed these little rats, and then hop on the computer, write for a little while, go to sleep, and wake up and do it all over again. And then there are other days when things get a little tricky, because not only am I not connected to a power grid out here, I'm also not connected to any kind of city water. I don't have a well, so all of my water is rain catch, and I treat it with bleach, so occasionally I have to run to town for a bottle of bleach, but not very often. But right now, for instance, it's like minus 10 C outside and snowing, and I knew it was going to be cold today, so another advantage of electricity, you can check the weather forecast, even if they're notoriously wrong all the time. So there's certain things I have to do to prep for cold weather, right? Like my water system, if you walk in my house and you don't bother looking at it, most of the time it functions pretty much like a normal person's water system in their house. It's just the outside plumbing is a lot different, though. Everything is above ground, so it's notoriously susceptible to freezing. And that means precautions have to be taken. So as soon as the cold weather front comes moving in, and I realize it's going to drop well below zero and stay there for a while, the outside water line has to be disconnected, or the totes I'm not really worried about. They can freeze and unfreeze, and they do it all the time, and it doesn't seem to bother them. But the PVC piping running from the totes and the lines connecting to the house, those can freeze, and that can have disastrous consequences. I mean, you don't think about it, and I'm sure I have a spare hose or two around here somewhere, but if one of those PVC lines breaks, bare minimum, that is a horrible pain in the butt that I have to endure to get a new line built and hooked up in essentially my spare time, since I'm working a full-time job. It just becomes a huge hassle. If one of these lines inside breaks, if the water heater goes out, the water heater's not as big of an issue because it's a secondary system and it runs on a bottle of propane, but still, it's something I like to have, especially working in concrete, getting dirty every day. I like to come home and just take a shower. And before, I was living out here and taking off-grid showers all the time, and this time of year it sucked because there's nowhere dry in the cabin. There's not like a wash area, so I either had to be really careful with a sponge inside by the fire pit over there, or I'd have to do my bathing outside, and that's not fun when it's like minus 10 degrees. It's a good way to, I guess maybe get sick, even though I don't really get sick anymore, and I'm not around people as much, unless I go around people and then I can get sick. But yeah, so there are days when being off grid out here feels like any ordinary day living in a cramped apartment, and there are other days when being off grid, like, you really start getting a sense of it. The wood stove is a constant reminder. If I don't put in the work around here and get the thing done that I need to do, then potentially freeze to death. These little monsters have to be fed, and they need water, and they want in and out at different times, so they'll be outside cats soon enough. But for at least the winter, they're still a little bit small to be just kicking them out of there. That's not for you. You have to be 21 to drink that. No, you got to be 21 years old to drink that. The law says you have to be 21. Stop. Peanut. So yeah, you get days when it feels a little more off-griddy than other days, I guess. And that's kind of like, that goes into the feeling and the sort of the misconceptions that go along with it. I mean, when we think of off-grid living, you're thinking of something like this little hand-built cabin in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, wood stove burning, making your own stuff. I can't wait to start making my own beer, but I've got to make sure the wheat crop comes up first. And little things like that, I'm making like the pizza oven outside and the little fire kiln and all these little odd and end things that I just create. It's like my playground most of the time. So most of the time I am living the dream. I actually, when I'm home, I spend more time outside of my home than I do inside. I told my brother the next house I build, I ought to just build a tiny little spot with just a bed, and literally, like, that's the only reason you have to go inside, is to go to sleep. Go run inside your shelter, light a fire, go to sleep. And there are cultures that do that to this day. Like, they don't shelter down until it's time to go to sleep. I don't really know where I'm going with this video. I just thought it was kind of interesting that you can have like sort of a normal life off grid, or you can be completely bushcraft wilderness survival, or it can be a mix of both worlds. Like, you can do the bushcraft thing when you feel like it. Kind of funny when you tell your family that you need to go camping. Like, you pretty much, your whole life is camping. Why do you need to go camping? I don't know. I just want to get away a little bit. And they're like, you are away. You're in the middle of the freaking woods in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, but I want to get like another 30, 40, 50 yards down the road and set up a little shelter, temporary shelter, and sleep under a bunch of sticks tonight. Could be confusing to your friends. But it's normal life, and you can mix and match it as much as you want. And if you're off grid, that's part of the freedom that goes with it. Is you can literally, especially if you own your own property. So I'm fortunate in that regard. I spent my whole life working, instead of working on my bushcraft skills, spent most of my life working to get this place purchased, get the house built. And even though I built it myself, still, I mean, I bought all these supplies. All the lumber in this house came from the lumber store. I got drywall, and there's no siding yet, but the plan was to put up regular aluminum siding. I've got aluminum, tin, aluminum, one of the two on my roof. I think it's aluminum roofing. It's fairly sturdy stuff too. I wanted something that was going to hold up. Like this all purchased. I didn't go out in the woods and build a log cabin, even though I still might. I mean, that's something I could do, right? If I want to build a log cabin, just go over there about 20 yards in the woods, start chopping down trees and build a log cabin. That's a long enduring project, but I'm here and the woods are right there. And I don't, there's no, there's nothing really stopping me from doing it. So that's kind of cool. And on the other account, you still need to make a supply run to town for things. So got to buy baking soda so I can make cat litter. I've got to buy beer because I'm not making my own yet. But it's not like an instant transition. You also don't have to go immediately from your regular life to completely off the grid and doing everything for yourself. You can transition gradually into it, and you will start acquiring skills. And the more skills you acquire, the less dependent you'll become on regular society. So it's like this little, it's not a metamorphosis. You don't just go into a cocoon for, 6 months while you're building your house and then come out a fully off-grid butterfly. You still are kind of attached, and people forever have been attached to society. There's nothing wrong with that. The people that came over to this country on the Mayflower, they brought tools, skilled tradesmen, everything with them that they would need so that when they got here, even livestock and seed stores to grow crops and things like that, because they knew when they got here it was going to be a rough time. It's not going to be easy being separated from everybody. You can't go down to the local pub, and you can't find a general store or a blacksmith anywhere, so you got to take one with you. And like, they were still connected to a certain way of living, and even though they're better at it than we are, then why are you eating my finger? Whatever. They came out and they all had each other, and they put in a lot of work. I think they all froze to death too. But the bullet point is, it's off-grid living is not a disconnect from normal life. It's not like you're totally disconnected and separated. You're just a little bit further down the road and learning how to do things yourself, like making these mallets, right? These are one of the most useful tools in the world, and I literally just go out to the woods with my hatchet and cut me a chunk of wood and make a mallet real quick. And that one took 45 minutes to make. Cedar all the way through. So I got the heartwood down here. It looks red, and then the sapwood, just basically peeled off the bark for this part, and then covered it all the way down to the heartwood for that part. It's a cool little dichotomy. Did that just for fun yesterday. Like, I just wanted to make a mallet, and I thought that would be a cool idea, and it came out pretty awesome. So, little things like that. You can make your own tools. You can start making your own clothes. You can pluck all the fur off the little kittens and turn it into string, and then make fabric with it, if I wanted to. Lucky for them, I don't much care for making string from fur. But I could. So you just learn all these little skills and stuff, and like I said, it's a gradual transition. So over time, you need less and less trips to town. You need less stuff to purchase, so you become more and more independent. And it's a process of growth from going from somebody who's dependent on just about everything And in my case, somebody who bought everything brand new when I was in the oil field to being out here and literally scrounging for junk at times, like these big green tubs that are out here. That's something cattle farmers throw away, and I just go and scrounge them up anytime I can. I'm like, get any of them buckets, and I just bring the buckets out here. I don't even know what I'm going to use them for half the time, but buckets are my thing. Like, this just they're cheap and or free depending on how you get them, and they're useful for a billion different things. So I collect buckets. That's what I do. Um, but it's not something I think the everyday survivalist type person would think of. You know, they're busy spending money on knives and expensive water purification systems and helmets and bullets and guns and all this stuff. Not to say that I don't have some of that stuff, but how many of them think about buckets? I mean, bucket is just, it's like your universal tool, and they don't last forever, but they can last a long time if you take care of them. That's like that is a tool that will save your life faster than any of those other things that I mentioned as far as long-term survival. Like, they're just handy to have, and until you can set up a kiln and make your own pots and stuff, yeah, buckets is gonna be what you need. Some kind of carrying thing that will hold water and stuff. Anyways, this is just a rambling rant. Like, not really a rant. I just felt like talking to the camera tonight and just kind of reflecting because I got here today. We have no running water today, so one of my uses for buckets is I actually put up rainwater and I keep a separate stash. And I've been using it for drinking water now for so long that I forgot the initial reason that I was keeping water around in buckets, and I'm keeping lots of buckets of them where it would, I mean, for drinking water it lasts me weeks and weeks and weeks. But I also, originally part of that plan was keep something inside next to the wood stove being heated that can be used for drinking water, for cooking, for bathing, for cleaning, for just doing laundry, anything. Like, that's why I have buckets of water laying around, and it's become so ingrained to have them that it's just become a habit, and I didn't even think about it until the water shut down for a couple days because of cold weather, and I still have water to drink, and I've got water to bathe with, and I can give the kitties a bath. Yeah, I didn't even think about it, but it's just become this habit where I get my drinking water from that bucket, and that's the way I get my drinking water. And I had forgotten all the other reasons that I have this system in place, but I'm glad that I do have this system in place, and I didn't give it up just because, you know, suddenly there's plumbing. We can go ahead and dispense with the buckets. Yeah, keep the buckets rolling, man. Always keep water stored up. Like, that's my emergency supplies for a lot of stuff. And even though it's become my regular drinking water from week to week, like, having those buckets around really helps out at times like this. Having the big totes of water outside, even though they're half frozen, I can get in there if I need to, and I can get water out of them. So it's not really a big emergency. Like, yeah, the more you can store up, especially with stuff that you need, like firewood, water, that's pretty much it. Or a healthy supply of emergency foods like ramen noodles and just anything you can pick off the shelf and eat. And, like, say my battery bank goes out or whatever, and I don't know, just random stuff. I don't have a refrigerator, so my food has to be patched up, so it's mostly dry foods like beans and noodles. And like I said, the little ramen noodle things, they're easy and quick. Shelf full of oils, spices, non-perishable stuff. There's a bowl of peanuts up there, big old bucket of lard. Like, it's all stuff that doesn't go bad. Even the eggs on my counter, they don't go bad. They're all harvested raw, farm fresh eggs, and they can just sit on the counter. So those are my foodstuffs. And you develop these habits around, like, even if I got a refrigerator today, I would still have all this crap. and I'd still have it packed away and stored like this because that refrigerator could crap out on me one day. And I'm sure over time I'd just be like, yeah, I eat the stuff off the shelf, and I normally don't refrigerate anything. That's just my thing that I do, and I'd forget all about why I have that stuff packed away like I do. And until you need it, you know, when something happens and so blow a fuse for the refrigerator and I can't get it running, or the refrigerator just decides to up and quit. Well, there goes your refrigerated food. Now what are you gonna do? Learn how to cook fast, or just make it a habit of cooking the stuff. So yeah, habits that you develop, things of that nature. That's another cool thing about doing this is the more that you learn, the more of these little habits you get. Like I get into a routine. I do more chores now than I ever have in my life. I don't even mind about them. It's just part of my routine. You know, I get here, I got to change cat litter, I gotta pack up water and put it in these buckets and bring it in the house. I gotta go out and collect firewood. I've got to store firewood up for next winter, which means lots of chopping and cutting. And there's all kinds of little chores like that around here that I do every day, so I stay busy, whether I'm working that day or off that day. Usually if I'm off, I'm working even busier out here. I work harder here than I do at work a lot of the time. So anyways, it's just some reflections about being off-grid and in the woods, and just kind of a general rambling about what goes on around here and the kind of stuff that goes through my head, especially on a snowy day like today when it's just snowy time outside, freezing weather. And that means if you're generating your own power, you're making your own water, you're doing all this stuff on your own, heating your house, whatever it is, then you are susceptible, like you're responsible for the utility. And that means if something affects the utility, it's on you to fix it or on you to deal with it being broken. And so I'm not going to say my water system is a broken system, but it would be better to have a cistern buried in the ground and underground piping most of the way and insulated piping the rest of the way. Like that stuff would probably be better, but it's not what I have. All my stuff's above ground and I'm good with it. Like, which means today's a little more off-griddy than yesterday was when I had running water and I could take a normal shower. Squish your head. And of course I got these little rats to keep me company. So never get lonesome anymore because they're always up my butt. Anyway, I'm going to shut the camera off and let you go. That was just kind of like my little diatribe. If you guys have any questions about the cabin or kind of what I do out here or anything like that, feel free to ask. This is sort of an informational video, but it's just a random thought thing. I really didn't have any plan for this. It's just wanted to put some info out there. Wanted to talk for a minute, like I said. So figured I'd talk to the camera for a minute and give you all a little kind of a here and now what's going through my head. If you watch my videos, you know normally I'm trying to put out like more informational content now. So this is not something I'll be doing often. It's just kind of, unless you guys request it. If you like this kind of thing, I can sit here and do my little meditation on the camera. That's cool. I don't mind doing that. Sitting here, I got a nice hot fire right at my back. So if you're lucky in one of these videos, my shirt might catch on fire. Woo, that'll be fun. But until next time, I hope if you're new to my channel, take a look around, kind of see some of the other videos and what I'm doing. And if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe because I need more subscribers. More subscribers is more better. And yeah, check it out. Stay for a while and stay posted on what I'm doing by subscribing to my channel. I'm going to be doing all kinds of neat stuff with fire and chemicals and making chemicals and basically taking stuff from the wilderness and turning it into everyday items and becoming less dependent on trips to the hardware store and stuff like that. So stay tuned, it's going to be fun. Until next time, this is Marty signing off.